Hey, everybody. Welcome back. If you've been to multiple author lunches, it can be lunches. You can have lunch while we're doing this, but we're doing an author launch. And welcome back if you've been to multiple ones. If this is your first time, welcome here. We are here with Valerie Sousa. She is our newest launch author of Coding to Kindness, which is a children's book, and it is beautiful, and it is bright purple, and I love all the colors. Just like looking at the cover makes me so happy. And I know that we talked about this a while back, and I want to talk about the concept of the book. But before we start doing that, can you just introduce yourself to us a little bit, to anybody out there who has never met you?
Yes, thank you for having me tonight. This is exciting. So I am Valerie Sousa, newest author of Coding to Kindness, but I'm also a kindergarten teacher in East Longmeadow, Massachusetts. And I've been a part of numerous different things like innovation team and professional development for the school and things like that. And I'm also a mom of 3. So I'm immersed in early childhood day and night.
All the time.
Yeah.
all of the early childhood. That's right. That's amazing. And like I said, we've talked a little bit about this as far as, just that the concept always seems very far away, like coding to kindness. How does that happen? So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So a few years ago, I like to just dive in and think after sometimes when it comes to teaching. And so I don't really know what I'm doing sometimes, but I just learn along the way with the kids. So a few years ago, I decided to incorporate some coding into my kindergarten classroom. And it was a really great learning experience for the kids, but also for myself. I didn't know what to expect. So I just was hoping that maybe they'd get some mathematical thinking and learn their right and left and directionality and all of those important skills. And I was going into it more in an academic mindset. And what I was pleasantly surprised by was how much they really started they started just connecting with each other. Learning how to disagree appropriately is huge. And really understanding how to problem solve together. So I loved it. I just fell in love with coding in kindergarten because it brought in so many different types of learning all in one. It was like a package deal for me. And so over the years, I started doing a little bit more about it. And I ran like a parent night where it was kind of introducing, because it's hard. It's a hard concept. Some people are like, what are you doing? Like, what is coding? And it's not the coding that we're looking at in high school level. It's very different, but you got to start somewhere. So I think of like the alphabet or even numbers 1 to 10. You start there, right? Then you go to sounds, and you go to words, then you build upon it. And this book and what I'm doing in the classroom is all those foundational things that can really help the kids as they get older. And they're just going to be one step more prepared for, instead of diving into coding in like 3rd through 5th grade, they're going to have that problem solving and critical thinking aspect that they might have not have had before. So yeah. It was just awesome to see the kids working so nicely together. And that's sort of how I blended in social emotional skills and coding together.
That's amazing, because you know that there are people out there who are saying kindergartners can't code. What are you doing? They're not going to be able to do that. But it's crazy what kids can do when you actually give them the opportunity to show what they can do. And, there are so many activities out there, even like, if you go to code.org and there's like the analog, type activities that the kids can do. You don't need a computer at all. And I think a lot of times people miss out on those super amazing non-online activities, which would actually be really great right now for parents who are thinking, oh, my kids are spending too much time on the computer. I don't want them coding as well. So, but I know you have resources coming up for us, which I'm really excited about. I can't wait to talk about that.
And one thing that's important, like you just touched upon, is that it doesn't have to be on a computer. A lot of the coding that is done in early childhood is not even using a piece of technology. It's just the simple problem solving and critical thinking aspect of it that incorporates well into coding. So yes, there is those great programs on code.org and Codable and Scratch Junior and all those amazing programs out there, but there's also many things you can do that are non-tech.
Yeah. Absolutely. And yeah, and a lot of people miss that, I think. So that is so cool. I absolutely love this. So we're going to go on to some of your questions that we came up with that I'm really excited to talk about. And we touched on this a little bit, but really, if I said to you as a parent, why are you coding in early childhood? What would you say?
I actually made a slide for this for parents when I presented one time of like why it's so important. And I did touch upon some of it. There's that critical thinking, the problem solving. They're learning also just simply, kids think things happen because it's magical. It's just, they don't understand, and they don't have to understand how, computer programs are programmed completely, but what's important in coding is understanding that there's a person behind that computer. There's a person behind that game, that app. Every day we're going to fridges sometimes, and there's coding involved with that. There's coding involved in cars. Every single thing that we do, we can't get away from coding, but we sometimes don't realize it's there. And so I think it's just valuable to open the eyes of young children to understand the world around them in that sense. But I also, the skills that they create, they get from it is really powerful. Like they just start to problem solve, but they even just say, "Oh, Mandy, I think that it might go this way, this way, this way, and this way," instead of like, "No, you're doing it wrong." Like, and that happens at first in code. Like, but it's the continual practice of a lot of those problem solving skills and social emotional skills that was really cool to watch as they progressed. And they just continually got chances and opportunities to make mistakes, but also then get over those mistakes and have a wonderful outcome. And it's amazing. My favorite part of coding is when they finally all together reach, if the mouse reaches the cheese or whatever, thing reaches the end there, they just like giggle and are laughing in excitement, jumping up and down, like screaming. And it's just the excitement in it, and they're learning so many skills, but it's fun, it's engaging, and it's like a game and play. They're doing that they're not thinking that they're working,
Sure.
They're really diving into all of it. So it's great.
Sure. We're tricking them into learning. That's the best kind of learning. You're tricked into it. Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. And I think, again, you touched on this question just a little bit, but I know that you told me kind of this whole story of the combination, and I love that it was such a surprise to you that you came in and you said, specifically, I came in with this academic mindset, and we do that so often as teachers, right? Like everything we go into is about the academics, core content, how we can get them to learn. And this whole like social emotional thing snuck up on you. And I know we joke about it kind of tricking them into learning, but essentially what you're doing is you're involving play in order for them to learn those skills too. So what, can you talk a little bit more, kind of dive into some of the other social emotional skills you saw that, that went along with these coding projects that you were doing?
I think even just touching upon growth mindset too, like they're just learning that, and they get it wrong. They get it wrong countless times, but the coolest thing is that they don't give up and that they continue to problem solve. The social skills involved in just simple discussions and conversations is so important. I've been able to incorporate a lot of coding into social studies, into science, into math. I do a little icebreaker activity at the beginning of the year where each child has a card on a grid on the table and a big bulletin board. And then I have clues about each child. So, if I love pandas, for instance, right? So if it was going to code to Valerie, I would say, you got to code it to the person that loves pandas. And they have to then figure out, who in the class really likes that? And so then they are getting to know each other, but at the same time doing coding as well. So it's just, it lends itself so beautifully to social emotional skills, to academic skills, to getting to know you and problem solving skills, like all of that. I've just managed to pull in different activities with coding that have been really amazing.
Okay, and that is awesome with coding and stuff, but kudos to you for thinking of that stuff. Like that is just like kudos to you as like a teacher with an imagination of being able to put those things together, because I would have never thought of that. So that is amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah, I like to kind of take things and run with it. And sometimes it's the biggest flop in the world, but I tell the kids like, that didn't work. Mrs. Sousa messed up. But it's all good.
Yeah, that is amazing. So I'm really, really excited. You have some people already knocking at your door. Everybody is very excited to come in for your party. So I would love to bring in your first guest. And your first guest is your illustrator, correct? And Jen Liban, I believe. I'm going to ask her. Yeah, I can see her shaking her head in the green room. So we're good to go. We're Jen Liban. So we're going to bring her in. I'm so excited to have her here. How are you?
Hello, I'm good.
Good. Welcome.
Thank you. This is exciting.
I absolutely love the illustrations in this book. Like even just the cover makes me so happy. Like, I don't know, the colors and the kids, and it just makes me so happy. Can you tell us a little bit about the way you collaborated or came up with the illustrations for the book?
Yeah, so I always had this weird dream of like illustrating a children's book, and I guess I just never thought it was going to happen, and then like here we are. So it's so awesome that Valerie and I found each other. But I am originally an art teacher, so that was how I started out, and my major was drawing and painting, so that was kind of just my thing. I like drawing, and I actually moved from art to tech. So I then started teaching computers and technology. So I teach my students in middle school, beginner, computer science and coding and things like that. So how weird that my background is coding and art. And then one of the things I did at the middle school right before everything shut down was I had started a Girls Who Code club. So the idea of like girls and coding and STEM and art and tech and all those things, it's like all of my favorite things all come together. And like for Valerie to have written this book and like given me the opportunity is just the coolest thing ever. So I think I kind of went like super girly with it because it was fun, because you don't get that opportunity to do that. So yeah, sure. So there's a lot of pinks and purples and bright colors. I wanted to look really happy because it's all about that SEL and problem solving, like to make things better and make things happy. So
yeah. Well, you accomplished that because, like I said, it's a very pretty cover, and it just makes me happy. So, how was the collaboration between you guys? What was that like?
Do you want to talk about that, Valerie?
It was great. I just remember when we first started, you had created the 3 characters, and I was like, that's exactly what I want, but I want them a little younger. Like I didn't envision them. And like I told you that all I had to say was, I just wanted that little tweak to make them a little younger. And you came back within 24 hours and you just, that was it. Like that's this. And so it was just so cool. Like every time I reached you, I felt like you just read my mind. And I didn't have to say much. You were just like, I got it. I'm good. Like, and we just ran with it. And I think it's so helpful too that we, like you were saying, you have the background with coding, you're an educator, girls in code, like all of those things are the same passions that I have. So it was really easy to collaborate and she's got the talent, obviously. So it was just such an easy ride this last year doing this. So it's been awesome.
Thank you. No, that's awesome. This definitely, it pushed me a little bit out of my comfort zone because I was like, a book is a big project. Am I going to be ready for this? Is it going to feel like a chore when you have to do, like 20 something drawings? And I surprised myself that it didn't feel like it was wonderful. And I found my love for drawing again. And I had to actually look up because my original drawings, the girls were older, and it's just kind of like every artist just kind of has this style of theirs. And when you said younger, I was like, how do I do that? So I had to go and like look at other children's books, and I'm like, how do they do younger? And it was like, well, if you make the faces rounder and you make the eyes bigger, and there's like these little things that I never thought about. And I was like, oh, so then that's how they got younger. It was the fountain of youth.
That's awesome. And what a fantastic experience from the standpoint of just being a professional and going through something like that where you have to rethink what you do because you've been doing it for so long as an art teacher and then computers, and to have to go back and I love that stuff. I love having to rethink what I did and then think about it in a different way in order to make something better. And you'll be able to share that experience with your students then too, as far as like what it's like to do that. So.
Very much, because I know that that's something that Valerie and I even talked about. We talked about how, like, when you've been teaching for a while and you've been doing the same things, that you have to change something. You have to change something up to make it, feel different or exciting or new. And, and that might be writing a book. It might be illustrating a book, or it might be trying a new project in class, or coding with your early elementary students. I think it's awesome. You have to keep it fresh.
Yeah, that is amazing. So do you have any other projects on the horizon then that you're thinking about?
Well, I always have a zillion projects going on, but no book as of this moment. I actually just started a new job. So I was art teacher and then a tech teacher. And I actually just moved from middle school to elementary. Librarian. I'm a library and media specialist. So it was really... Thank you. It was really cute.
I have a great book for you.
I know. Well, I've already told all of our district librarians that I'm purchasing and donating a copy for each library. And the cutest thing was one of my classes today, it was either kindergarten or first grade. We were talking about our favorite books. And one of the little girls at the very end, like, raises her hand, and I'm like, what's going on? She goes, my mom said that you have a book today. And I was like, oh, that's the most adorable thing ever. I was like, I do. So it's fun because, like, little kids, like tinies, that's a new world to me. And they're so funny, and they're so, like, fearless, and they don't have that filter. So, like, the first time I met my kindergartners, they immediately, like, all unmuted and go, look at your hair. Like, I had never seen it before. I was just like, yeah, that's my hair. Yeah. So the littles, they're adorable.
They tell it like it is.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. But that's so sweet that one of them brought up that you have a book. That is fantastic. What a great feeling.
Valerie and I have been tweeting about it a lot and putting it out there. So it's just cool that, like, that a parent noticed, like, and enough to, like, mention it. So it was really sweet. It was nice.
That is very, very nice. Yeah. Well, we so appreciate you being on, because we love talking to the illustrators of the children's books, for sure. Like, that is so much fun. A lot of times, a lot of the books that we publish children's books, but we also publish a lot of PD books. And then we don't have that opportunity to talk to somebody who actually got to draw for the book. And that is so very, very cool. So thank you so much for being on with us. Congratulations on your new book, your new position, all the new things going on.
All the stuff. We all feel like first year teachers this year, don't we?
Yeah, you just took it to a new level by taking a new position and, pandemic, but whatever. You got it.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jen.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hi.
I know. Jen both removed herself and I removed her at the same time, so I brought in Betsy. That was like a sneak peek into. It was like we opened that little door on the door to see who was out there, and then we, like, close it back up again because she's coming. Okay, we've got all the things going on tonight. So that was so much fun. I love her. She is amazing. She's
awesome.
Oh, she's so amazing. Much fun. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay. So we are going to, what I would actually like to do now, and you can kind of choose I don't know if you've chosen if you want to read the whole book or if you want to read a part, but this is my favorite part because I get to hear the book. So I was hoping that you would do an author's read now.
Sure. Yes. I'm going to do a section of the book to give you an idea of what coding is actually in the book.
That'd be awesome.
So just to give a preface, there's 3 girls. There's Ada over here, and Grace, and then Dorothy. So these 3 characters are named after pioneer computer scientists in women in history. So I just fudged that up, but there's information about each of them here. So they're just inspired by those 3 women. So Ada Lovelace, Dorothy Vaughan, and Grace Hopper. And in the book, the girls get into normal predicaments that they would normally have in an early childhood elementary scenario. So this here, they are playing on the field. So Dorothy and Grace headed to the field to play soccer. Ada always disliked playing soccer. Instead of using her words to tell her friends she wasn't interested, she kicked the ball far off into the woods near the field. "Why would you do that?" yelled Dorothy. "We wanted to play soccer, Ada." "That wasn't nice," cried Grace. So here you see that there is a grid. Using your words is always the kind thing to do. Can you help code Ada to the soccer ball so she can return it to her friends and apologize? So I'm just going to walk you through this one here so you get a sense. Because this book, although it is a read aloud, it's also interactive. So the reader really has to interact with the pages and get to know the characters and try and problem solve with them and for them. So you start over here because Ada needs to get to that soccer ball, which is all the way over here. But just like in coding, there's bugs along the way. And in friendships, there's bugs along the way too. So some of those bugs would be impatience, unkind words, anger, disrespect. Those are things that are going to get in the way of their friendship, and that's going to get in the way of her getting to that soccer ball. So you can go about this in many different ways where you go, forward, right, forward, forward, right. Or you could do it other ways. So you could bring in, if you're using it in a classroom, you could bring in students to talk about the different ways, maybe the shortest pathway to get there, the longest pathway to get there, what they would avoid, why they would avoid it. And there is guiding questions at the beginning of the book with all of these ideas and examples. So it opens up a discussion about what do these words mean and why do they get in the way of a friendship? And also the discussion of coding. So they're really trying to problem solve and just get to that soccer ball there. So I'll read this next page here. "Wow, you did it. Thanks to your coding skills, Ada returned the ball to Dorothy and Grace, and she apologized for kicking the ball. I'm sorry." They joyfully agreed to walk to Dorothy's house to play with her dolls. So they decide on each page to do different things, and they're just, issues and problems that arise along the way. And there's many different ways to go about it. So there's no right or wrong answer, which is great. And it just or the readers to have important discussions, because when I do read alouds, I love doing read alouds, but I also love just having those conversations based upon the books that I'm reading. So I really wanted to make this book as interactive as possible. So
that's amazing. I love the bugs idea.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
That was more of a final edit thing along the way. This has probably been changed around and added and edited a million times. But yeah, no, that was because we do, even as adults, like we need to know that no friendship is ever going to run smoothly, and there's always going to be bugs and there's always going to be issues, but just what's important in the friendship is getting past that and moving, forward and understanding to avoid them if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we always joke with the SEL books. We're like, oh, we know
that
adults can use some of these.
Yeah.
Ability to argue without getting angry or to, like redirect. Like we know lots of adults that could use those things. But yeah, I love that. I love the interactivity. I love that, it's something that like not only could a parent sit down next to a student and read to them, but also actually interact with them within the book. And is there something in the book, like if as a parent, would I necessarily know how to do that if I didn't know anything about coding?
So there is guiding questions here, which will help. Oops, sorry. It's so hard to figure out the sides. But yes, so here is guiding questions, and it kind of goes through that, and it says, like, throughout this book, you'll have opportunities to code to kindness by sequencing the directional cards forward, backward, right, left, right, so the girls can remember to be kind. So also, this is leading into something else, but there are free resources available on the website. So one of them is actual cards. directionality cards that a child can cut out, and they can sequence them along the way. So they can sequence a code outside of the book using the directionality cards. Another thing is they could also on the, let me get back to that grid page. They can also use, I have the 3 characters where they can cut out on a piece of paper and use them to code along. So they could, almost like a game piece sort of. And then there's other activities which I can talk about later, but those are just 2 things that really would help with the interactive piece to this book. And they're available for free on my website.
That is amazing. I love that. You really thought of everything. So very, very cool. And so just to kind of go back to like, you kind of brushed over it, and I was wondering if you would go a little bit deeper into how you developed the characters in the story.
So I wanted to think of women in STEM because I feel like we need to talk about it more, and we need more women in STEM. And I think history speaks for itself when sometimes there's not the recognition that was deserved over the years. And like even Ada Lovelace, like she didn't even live to really see the end result of her invention. But so I chose Ada Lovelace, Dorothy Vaughan, and Grace Hopper. And Ada Lovelace was an English mathematician. She was the first computer programmer back in the 1800s. And, you know, she really paved the way for so many things. So I just really knew I wanted her. And then Dorothy is just amazing. She worked for NASA, and she was the first African-American manager at NASA. And then Grace Hopper also, like they were just the 3 that stuck out to me in their stories. And they just really helped pave the way with a lot of computer science. So Grace Hopper was a pioneer in the early days of computers. The first AO system was created by Grace and her team. And she retired at the age of 79. Like she dedicated her life to this. So there was really, I was just drawn to these 3 characters. And there's more information that's going to be on the website as well about these 3 characters. So you can, again, use coding, use kindness and all that, but you can also get like a little bit of a history lesson as well in this book. So there's multiple things happening and discussions that can happen about the characters as well as coding and everything else.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I love that. And being, you know, I was a tech director. I don't know. I've lost track of how many years the pandemic's been going on. So it was somewhere between like 1 and 5 years ago. I was a tech director. I can't remember. But I remember I was so fortunate to have my office, my district office was actually in the high school. And so I got to talk to the high schoolers all the time. And one of the things that kind of repeatedly came up was that I was a woman tech director. And it is unusual to have women tech directors. There aren't many of us. And so especially ones that handle both the techie networking side and the actual education side. And so that was a question that I got a lot by girls as they would come in and they would kind of, how did you get to do that job? Like, how do you do what you do? And, you know, or they would come in and they would say like, I would love to do something like this, but I'm not tech savvy. And so we'd have conversations about what being tech savvy actually meant. And it was just such an eye-opening experience for me on how still, you know, how it is still such a male-dominated world in technology and engineering that girls can't even see themselves in those positions until they see somebody else there. And so I love all of the pieces of this book. I mean, the coding to kindness is important, but then also the women in tech or in STEM or in engineering, whichever one it is a phenomenal addition as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I hear all the time and see oftentimes the after-school coding programs, the robotics, all of that, you see it, it's very male-dominated still. And I think it's just the mindset. I think it's girls can code and they can be problem solvers and they can do it, but It just, like you said, they kind of need to see someone doing those things and being a role model for them. So I hope that these 3 characters that I chose wisely, based upon their, these real women, will inspire the young girls to pick up this book. And it is so, like you said with Jen, it is so inviting, the colors and everything. Like she really got into that, where it's so inviting for girls to be able to read this story and enjoy it and hopefully learn something from it.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, too, gone are the days where tech people or engineers or whoever you want to talk about in STEM, kind of gone are those days where it's just people sitting behind a computer. Like, you need all of the social, emotional characteristics in any job that has to do with computers now. You don't get to just sit there and not talk to people anymore. I think that was kind of the way that it used to be more like that. And so I think that this does a really good job bridging that understanding of, hey, we still need to cultivate relationships within the area of STEM too. And you can still focus on kindness and work on computers and be a woman. Like, all of those things can happen at once.
You can do it all.
Yeah, we can do it all. So I absolutely love this book. It's so very cool. And we do have people knocking at your door again, and we kind of got like a sneak peek at one of them. So we're going to bring them in. 2 of my favorite people in the world. So we have Betsy and Jeff that's going to join us. How are you guys doing?
How are you?
Very well, thanks. How are you guys?
Good. Yeah, so more EduLaunch authors. More EduLaunch children's book authors. That is amazing. I don't think we've ever had 4 on the screen at once. So that
Very
is
cool.
3. I'm not 1, 4. So children's books, 3 children's books. So do you guys want to kind of introduce yourself to anybody who might not know who you are?
I'm Betsy Sheehan. Sorry. And I work with Val at Meadowbrook School in East Long Meadow, Massachusetts, but also been to be on this authoring journey together. It's been really awesome.
I'm Jeff Kubiak, and I'm one of the EduLaunch authors as well. I wrote a book called One Drop of Kindness, and I am so excited for Val's book to come out, and this is a great opportunity. Woohoo!
Woo! Yeah, so do you guys want to, now have you guys seen the book? Do you want to talk a little bit about what you've seen or what you know, or about Val's work, any of those things?
I can start if you want. Just to say a little bit about Val and a little bit of backstory on this. She's kind of doesn't give herself enough credit for how awesome she is, and I might even liken her. I know you were just talking about the Dorothy Vaughan and Ada Lovelace and Grace Hopper. I would liken her in some ways to them, because she's a kindergarten teacher who has brought like this new idea. Like, this is pretty novel, bringing coding into the classroom and just making it so accessible to the kids. If you walk into her classroom while they're doing these activities, the children are so engaged and they're having a blast. But you see what she was talking about before with the problem solving and the collaborating. And you would think just going from one place to another wouldn't be so hard. But when you're coding a little mouse and you have to work together on it, you do have to figure those things out. So I would say, as a counselor, you go to those different PDs that your school puts on, and you try to be open-minded, and you try to be like, okay, this is going to apply to my job this way, and there's certain things that you might be like, I have to say, when I was walking into the PD that we were going to have about integrating coding and tech into our jobs, I was like, how am I going to use this as a counselor? And I have to say, it has been one of the best things to integrate coding into talking about social skills, because we talk a lot of the time about how do we teach kids executive function? How do we teach them how to think, really? Coding does that. It breaks it down into little manageable steps where you have to think about what you're thinking about and planning and conversing together. So it's been pretty amazing. And I have to say, so I went to this training, and Val and our friend Leigh were putting it on as well. And I was a little hesitant, but what came from it was like exposure to all these really awesome programs and these really awesome things. And that's what Val does, is she brings like I would liken her to those pioneers because she brings in these new ideas and she makes them so accessible. And then you're like, oh, this is how I incorporate that into the job that I do. This is how I make it more fun and more accessible for my students.
That's very cool. So what I hear you say is you started out going to the PD because they were your friends and you wanted to support them and came out learning something. So
I was kind of voluntold. Yeah, I had
That's right. We've all been there. We've all done that. We know how that works. That's
amazing.
That is amazing. And I think it's a really good point too. Like, a lot of times I'll hear people say, well, kids don't have to learn coding because computer science isn't all coding, or kids don't have to learn coding because eventually computers are going to do all of that for us. But the fact of the matter is that there's so much more to coding than just that. Like it is the breakdown of being able to say, first this happens, then that happens, and those two things cause that. Like there's a lot of things that are broken down into, like you said, smaller manageable pieces that just help the kids think. Instead of kind of these overarching ideas that we tend to give them and then ask them, to comprehend that. It really does break it down into smaller pieces. And so I love that you said that. Jeff, how about you?
Well, I only know Val from social media and now that she's part of the EduLaunch family, but I had a chance to preview her book and look through it. And I was just in awe because I think coding and SEL are the two most important components right now of primary and elementary education. I believe everyone can code and everyone needs to code and everyone needs to learn to code, and it's fun and easy. And kindergarten teachers are my heroes because as I'm able to connect and know these kids well enough to manage them and have fun with them and engage them, it's all about the coding and SEL components of getting kids to understand their own understanding and learning and behaviors. And this book has 3 amazing characters and it's real life because, like Grace, I think, is it Grace that wanders away and never listens, and all of a sudden they're on the swings and it's just these 3 little girls who have so many differences, but they have so much in common. And, they're realistic characters because there are real characters, and it's just a wonderful adventure. And, Valerie brings it to life in such a fun, inviting way. And I can't wait to get my hands on the real book and just start sharing it because it's so valuable. And it's not just for kindergartners. It's really, it's a picture book, and every child, K through 12, even adults, we have to have picture books. Picture books are so important for teaching, for learning, for understanding, and they really do bring things to life. And this is just going to be another amazing book. It's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you said that. So I also agree. I think that picture book should be in K-12, and the high schoolers or the middle schoolers, they're going to act all goosey about it at first, but they love it by the end. Like if you've read to them, you've seen that. And I was going to ask, so if I have, say, a 7th grade daughter who's super interested in potentially going into computer science, I could give her this book and she could read it and it would be amazing. Is that true?
Mm-hmm. I think so. Yeah, absolutely.
No doubt.
Definitely.
Okay.
I mean, I learned from reading this book. Like there are certain things that you learn in the PDs and things like that, but to take away how you would approach even teaching children how to do these steps, and to think about it like from a counselor's point of view, I want to teach kids to slow down and think about every step that they take and that they make. So this has totally broken it down, and the activities that go along with it. Really, I would suggest not just teachers using this, but parents and counselors and people who are going to be talking with children and being able to work with them on the different skills that they need. This would be the book to go to.
That's awesome.
To go on what Betsy's saying, it teaches a social story, and with that social story, it becomes real life, and it becomes something that, oh wow, I see that on the playground, or I see it in the classroom, and oh really? When my teacher told me to take 3 steps and then to look to my right to get the book. Whoa, I just coded, right? And it's just these little things, you know, and you know, Valerie, one of the activities, like super simplistic, you're thinking about it like, no, that's what coding is. And while it's broken down simplistic, it can go so infinitely deep. But this is what it is, you know. It's just the word coding gets, you know, people like, oh, you code, you know, ooh, new language. But it's awesome.
That's amazing. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. We really appreciate you coming on and taking the time to talk about Valerie's book. And Valerie, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
Thank you so much. It's so great to hear, you know, how much you both like value all the same things that I do, and how the book will help, hopefully, both of you and your practices as well. So,
it's awesome.
Thank
you.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and Sarah and I are, I think, still have our minds blown from last week when you two revealed that you work at the same school, and we had no idea. We're like, what's We're both like, what?
That's funny.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, all right, my friends. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you.
Congrats. Good job.
Thank you.
Oh, I love them. That's so much fun.
They're great.
Yeah, they are. I mean, there are a lot of amazing authors out there, but ours are kind of the best. So, it was great to have them on. Okay, so, oh my gosh, this is going so quickly. It is already 6:42. So I want to hit a little bit on, we talked about the characters in the story. Let's start talking a little bit about those additional resources that you have for teachers to make sure that we get that in.
Sure. So I do have a website, ValerieSousaAuthor.com. And on the website, it does have information about the book, but it also is linked to my blogs. So I come from a teacher perspective of just writing I've written about coding, I've written about taking risks and remote learning and just different things that come up. Occasionally I will write a blog. It's linked to my social media feed, where Twitter, all the education things that I see that are so great and that go along with the book or just go along with education, you can find that there. But also there is additional resources that you can find. So I printed off copies just to kind of give you an idea to hold up and show. But what I did is I made grids here, and this is kind of more for an advanced, because I made the grid a little bit bigger. There is a grid that's smaller, but what it is basically is I envision this with a parent, a teacher, a guidance counselor, a principal, you name it, someone working with a child, and going through and problem solving. So first identifying the problem. This will be digital, so here you can go on Flipgrid if you want, or you could take a video and have the child just discuss, this is how I'm feeling, this is the problem that I'm having. And then you'll be able to take these bugs and place them, but also those bugs on the grid, they're also explaining what those bugs are. What is getting in the way of me coming up with a solution? What can I do? And so it starts to get them to think about ways to get to the solution. So the solution's down here. And then after just discussing, okay, and then they can code and avoid those bugs and really discuss like how they're feeling at the end and what might be good resolutions for the problem. So there's an example like this, and then there's also an example that's a little smaller. You know, if you're working, it depends on the age group you're working with. I would say this would be like upper elementary. This would be more early childhood based. But there's also another copy of the same exact thing, but they can write it out. So here they'd have a way to write it if they didn't want to use video on Flipgrid or something like that. I had mentioned before as well, I have both one with and without dotted lines. One with dotted lines for kids who might need a little assistance with cutting, but they can cut out these and they can use them as they're reading the book. So they can keep them aside in a little baggie with their book. And this is a great activity too, is because I jumped into coding as a teacher, not really realizing what I was doing. I went on Twitter, I looked around and everything. But if you're hesitant and you're nervous about like jumping into something like this is a good like basic book to start with, because you'll learn the basics with them along the way, and then you can move on to other things, as you get more comfortable. So this is a good starting point. But there's the cutout one and then just a regular one there. You can also use the 3 girls here, and you can cut them out and then use them as little, like game pieces or whatever, and have actually interact through the book to get back to kindness. So those are some resources, and I'm working on more, and they'll always just check out the website, and I'll be adding more things, but this is just a start, and I hope this is really helpful, and I hope that it helps kids to understand coding, but also understand problem solving as well.
That is awesome. We need to talk to Sarah about making action figures.
I know.
Oh, Sarah, yeah. I know you're watching. We need action figures. That would be so much fun. I love the extra resources that you have. And if you are looking for those extra resources, you can find them on Valerie's website, which is right there. And if you go to her website, valeriesousaauthor.com/coding-activities, you can find everything there, but also check out her website. She's got a ton of really cool things that, the blog and everything that you'd also may be interested in. So follow her on Twitter. What's your Twitter account?
Valerie Sousa 7.
Valerie Sousa 7. So follow her on that. And, I'm sure that you have your website probably attached to Twitter as well. I would imagine you can find it there too. So lots of places to find her. You can find the book on Amazon, Coding to Kindness on Amazon there. And of course, if you would like to order in bulk, we give bulk discounts at 10+ books, and you can get those from messaging Sarah Thomas or emailing Sarah Thomas at edumatchbooks@edumatchers.org. So we have a couple more guests they have been like furiously knocking at your door, but I wanted you to talk about the resources, but they're super excited to be here. So we're going to let them in now. And that is Chris Woods and Leigh Boland as well. So, hey guys, how are you? Thank you for waiting so patiently for us.
Anytime.
It's all good.
We appreciate you. So can you tell us a little bit about who you are and how you know Val?
Let me go first. I'll go first. So I am lucky to have Val as a colleague and a friend at Meadowbrook. So I am the math coach at Meadowbrook, and Val is the kindergarten teacher. And it's been amazing having somebody in the building who is passionate about innovation and STEM and coding and math and all of those amazing things. She's really pushed me, and we've done a lot of fun things like Gillette Stadium for the big conference, and iPad conferences, and really kind of pushing each other to do things. So she's an inspiration to me. And the book is just amazing. Absolutely amazing.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
And I'm Chris Woods. I've known Valerie for years on Twitter, and she's just a great educator with so many super ideas. And again, Twitter or any social media is just such a great place for educators to meet new people and get ideas. And Valerie asked me a while back, hey, would you take a look at the book? And I was like, sure. I love, especially when younger kids, especially, and those books that connect any aspect of STEM with kids is so great to see. And again, it's such a super book. Valerie, congratulations to you and all the great people at EduMatch who have put it together.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very inspired by everything you put out. Both of you.
Yeah.
So did you guys get a chance to, Leigh, I think you've taken a look at the book, correct?
Yeah.
And Chris, you were part of the focus group as well. Am I correct in saying that?
Yep.
Okay.
So
Do you guys have anything, maybe starting with Leigh, do you have anything specific about the book that was like your favorite part or your favorite thing about the book?
Overall, I love that there's just so many layers to it. Like, it's not just a book about coding, and it's not just a book about kindness. There's just you can take it in so many different directions. And I really connect as a person who's really passionate about math and a math coach with everything that's involved with that, like taking risks and being wrong. And that's one of the things I love about Val. She'll see something on Instagram or Twitter, like I'll send her something on Instagram and she's trying it the next day. Like she's not afraid that it has to be perfect before she puts it in front of her kids. Like she makes the mistakes in front of them. And this book allows that to kind of, flourish with kids as well. And the fact that it's 3 historical women, I know you talked about it before, Mandy, like that is just so important that I feel like women have been cut off a lot from math and science. And it's really important that from a very young age that all kids feel that they can be mathematicians and they can be scientists and they can be into computers and all of those great things. And the younger we start with that message and not shut them off, the better. And this book is a great way to do that. And for little boys to see that there's women that are doing amazing things now and they've been doing them for so long and it hasn't been talked about. And that's really, I think, one of the most important pieces of the book.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And guess what? Boys can read books with girls in, and that's still okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's all right. All right. I love that. Thank you so much, Leigh. And Chris, how about you?
Honestly, to me, I mean, besides all the things you just mentioned, Leigh, especially I like how, Ada's got spontaneity and Dorothy's got, this kind of shy thoughtfulness, and Grace, this curiosity, and yeah, all those things can kind of get in the way maybe or cause problems in life, but those are also super important things that can be positives too, and helping a kid to realize that whatever they may think sometimes is their weakness can actually be a strength as well too. And and again, I love how you told a story, but yet you interspersed kind of the activities and things going in there as well. Just so neat. So.
Yeah, I love that. I love the interactiveness of it. That's probably one of my, I don't know. I can't decide if the characters are my favorite part or the interactiveness part of it is. It's what, I don't know. The colors of it, maybe. I'm not, there are so many things. I absolutely love this book. And so we kind of talked about this a little bit with our last guest, but do you guys think it's pretty appropriate for K-12 or what are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I still love picture books. Like you can see the stash of picture books I have in my house. It's a little obscene. So I think picture books are perfect for all ages. And as an educator, this book isn't just a one and done. Like I said before, there's so many layers to it. So you could take this one book, this one read aloud, and break it down and spend, multiple lessons on it and not have to keep kind of recreating the wheel. Like you've got so much depth in one resource.
Yeah. And thinking too about all the different subjects that it could connect to. You can connect it to computer science and math and things like that, but you can also bring in history and because it's a book, you've got the literacy aspect and again, it's breaking down those walls too, which is great.
Yeah. So many cross-curricular ideas that could be had in one book, like so many things that you could put together and piece together. Yeah, absolutely.
I've also even had like conversations recently with people that I've come across that I've met as adults, and they're coders and programmers for companies, and they're like, "You wrote a book about coding?" And I'm like, "Well, it's not like your coding, but it's my coding. It's my space of early childhood.
Yeah.
I need to get my hands on that book." So even adults, especially adults that are passionate about it in their profession, how amazing is it for them to sit down and read a book about something that they're passionate about too, with their children or grandchildren or, nieces and nephews, whatever. So I've had a few conversations recently where they were like, "I need to get my hands on that. That's so cool. I've never heard of early childhood and coding," and they're programmers,
Yeah, that is amazing. Absolutely amazing. Well, my friends, thank you so much for being on today. I really appreciate it. I know you waited, Leigh, especially you waited a really long time at that door, and you were like, I was so sad as I was letting people in, and then you were waiting, and I'm like, no, Leigh's there.
I would have been longer for Val. It's fine.
Well, it's so good having you guys. Chris, thank you as well for being on. We really appreciate you, and have a wonderful night.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Oh, right. What amazing people. I loved, and I know we met Leigh last week, and I absolutely adored her. She is so much fun, and Chris is such a nice guy as well. So that was fantastic. And we are actually to your last 5 minutes. And what we have to do right now is I'm going to scroll through the comments and pick 2 people to win a book. So what we will do with that is I'm going to end by putting up your website, and can they contact you through your website?
They can, yep. Or they can just, they can email at codingtokindness@gmail.com.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So we're going to put
the title and Gmail, and that's it.
Okay. codingtokindness@gmail.com. So through the comments, I am just going to scroll, and I'll pick the first one. Let's see. Someone's coming in as only Facebook user. Okay. Those are all EduMatch people, Facebook users. Reset EDU.
Oh, that's Jen.
Reset. Oh, is it Jen? Yeah. Okay, well, Jen wins the book then.
That's okay, because she's buying so many to give to libraries, and so she deserves a book.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. Okay, so the other person that wins then is Tap F12. Does that sound familiar to you?
I don't.
So that would be the other winner. So
okay. I can look them up. So Facebook?
Is that what? I'm sorry.
Is that from Facebook?
Nope, that's from YouTube.
Okay, I'll figure it out.
All right. Well, and they have to contact you. So they'll contact you, and if you won, you have to contact Val either on her website or again contact her at ValerieSousaAuthor.com or codingtokindness@gmail.com. Shoot her an email if I just said your name, and she will get your book sent out to you in 6 to 8 weeks when she gets her books. And otherwise, we are actually out of time. That is insane. Is there anything else you would like to follow up with your book to round us out here for the night?
No, I mean, just this has been such an awesome night. It's so cool to hear the people on there talking about the book, because it's always awesome to hear other perspectives of what they see in the book that I might not necessarily have seen. And again, like it's like I started coding and I didn't know what I was looking for. And it's sort of the same feeling of, wow, I'm getting all these things from this book that are just so amazing. And so it's just nice to hear like nice words and kindness, and everyone who's been on has been nothing but kind, and I'm so appreciative. And oh, it's Tapley. Yay, Tapley won a book.
That's awesome. So I'm so glad you know that person so that you can connect. And yeah, I have to say, Val, I'm so impressed with this book. I mean, it is absolutely amazing. I love the different layers of the book. It's not only beautiful visually, but the content of the book is solid. Like it's a fantastic children's book. So, thank you so much for everything you've done and for writing the book and for giving it to the community. And I hope you had fun.
Thank you to Jen too. It's just on the pages, and she did such a beautiful job. So she deserves all the credit in the world too.
Yeah, absolutely. Kudos to Jen. So I hope you had a fantastic night, and thank you so much. Happy launch day.
Bye. Have a good night. Thank you.